My Power Rangers 2017 review. I will go through this in very long detail. I don't normally go through an intro, but I want a high level of production and professionalism for a film that's so dear to my heart. Power Rangers has been around for around 24 years, with, of course, its peak being the original series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Super Sentai is where an amount of its Japanese action footage has been adapted or used stock footage from. It had a big history and also had the highest ratings from its first show, according to Reddit, much like Mighty Morphin did. It has a history with films. This is the first film with Dinozords, Jason, Trini, and Zach as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The first film had the cast replaced by Shemp Howards, Aisha, Rocky, and Adam. I'm not a fan of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers film, as it's not canon. The script seems to rip off Day of the Dumpster, but doesn't really add to it universe building wise, plot wise, character wise. It doesn't really do anything very. It does probably D level storytelling in terms of everything except the production. Turbo pretty much destroyed the film franchise, having David Yost left the show during Zeo, probably causing problems with the script. Steve Grandinas also left, who had his character peaking in Zeo. He just wanted to leave the show, apparently, which is something you can confirm anytime you see him at a convention. There's a long history with how Power Rangers came to be, in terms of how the 5-man Dungeons and Dragons, different job class characters formula has been created. There's a big thing on it in I forget if it's Green Ranger or Rovang's history of Power Rangers, but something interesting to explore. I'm not going to go into Godzilla or Kaiju because that's not the most important thing. What I am going to get into is Japanese history that ended up adding to the American history. So first off, this Gatchaman. 5 superheroes in suits. First time ever. They have one big robot machine that they combine into. Gold Lion is what Voltron was inspired. Pretty much uses stock footage from Gold Lion to create Voltron, and that was 5 combining mechs into one giant robot. And of course, there's the Japanese Marvel stock footage. He moves to the Go Ranger, where all the members of the team sort of clicked. You had the leader. You had the multicolored suits. You had the enemy. You had the destroy. Although there's not much of that in Lionsgate. You had the female. You had the guy who was a little bit heavier, etc. The creator of He Moves to Send the Go Ranger also created Cyborg 009 prior, and I wonder what do you think of this team of superheroes with a woman of different sexual orientation and an OCD member of the spectrum. Cyborg 009 had people from all over the world: France, Africa, China, Germany. So although it's not as much theme about anti-war and terrorism like Cyborg 009, at least it has a diverse cast, and I think there might be a chance that Shintaro Ishimori would be really proud of what they did with this kind of group, this kind of story. Shintaro Ishimori also created and really did like the entire show era of Kamen Rider. Although this is important too, because like without Kamen Rider, we wouldn't have had He Meets the Go Ranger, because like it was the first TV toku, and like after a couple of years, they worked out the production for how they would do the fight scenes so that Go Rangers would be a lot more impressive. Because like the first couple of seasons of Kamen Rider, the fighting is not that impressive. This is very important because like how impressive is the fighting in Lionsgate Power Rangers? Something to think about. I mean, a little bit of preview. Kamen Rider was not that important. Fighting was not that important in the original Kamen Rider. It was more about the story, which I'll get back to later. Next, let's get to the history of all the changes made in Power Rangers for better or worse. Heck, Lionsgate probably used this data to create a better movie, along with other topics such as superhero movie history, which I'll mention later. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers copied the Saved by the Bell formula, which is copied from the Ferris Bueller formula, in addition to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style of titling. Cousin Oliver, Tommy Oliver as the new kid. Same with AC Slater in Saved by the Bell. Bulk and Skull were introduced to villains prior to them. Sort of like mini villains prior to introducing like the ones outside of school, the Real Dangers, which was pretty cool plot device. They later put off its comic relief into the season and pretty much the rest of the franchise, which is interesting. Something interesting for the rest of the show, for this movie as well. Season 2, new Zord footage. And a reliance on U.S. action footage was used. A lot of U.S. footage is obviously used in the Lionsgate movie. There's no Japanese footage, which is very cool. And it's not the best fighting footage or action or Zord footage, but I would say they did a pretty impressive job, even though it was production and effort-wise, it was impressive. The fact that it was done without Japan was impressive, although it could have been better. It was cool the amount of suits they imported from Japan in season 2, which added to the US production side. It added a bunch of it started this VR Troopers feel where there were so many monsters on the battlefield and stuff. Although some parts weren't polished yet, action footage wise, fighting wise, etc. New Rangers were introduced after the old ones were fired. Season 3 continues more of this. New Zord footage. Catherine, a female pink sort of Sixth Ranger, was introduced. Fan favorite Kimberly Hart was played by Amy Jo Johnson, wanting to do more of her roles. Zeo introduced the Zeo Crystal, which was introduced in... Zeo continued the Zeo Crystal arc in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. Zeo reintroduced the Sentai footage back into the show after years of using US footage for the fight scenes. The Zeo Crystal became the source of the powers. Bully leaves after a dispute, oddly enough. David Joss leaves after a dispute, oddly enough, about sexual orientation concerning what happens in this movie. Although producer Scott Page Proctor disagreed, and Billy does look like he's been upset before in other footage of when they were filming the show. Turbo introduced new powers again, a Kid Ranger, new suits, and Zords. No Kid Ranger in this, and probably good for a reason, because it was a critical bomb, although Turbo did increase in ratings after the new Rangers were introduced. New Rangers were introduced, switching up the team again. This time pretty much straight out other than Justin. New Alpha, new Zordon. In Space introduces Andros and brings a Return of the Jedi Combine Them All ending, tying up the Zordon universe. The Lin era from Lost Galaxy to Time Force and somewhat Wild Force. Wild Force is just the Scott Page Proctor era, but it's pretty much the same thing. Took on a darker tone and broadened ratings, especially with Lost Galaxy, which actually outdid Ginga Man, which was the 14th highest rated Super Sentai of all time. And Lost Galaxy did even better than that in Japan, which is impressive. Not sure about the rest of the shows. Never heard about that in Japan or the US. They did certain things. They kept Alpha from In Space, so it wasn't like a complete reboot. So the Astro Mega ship, they had the team up with In Space, the first team up since Alien Rangers, since Countdown to Destruction. The annual team up was more of the thing after this till Wild Force and Ninja Storm. Pretty cool. Disney brought in a new company to take over the show, which wanted to create films or feature a Power Rangers as a focal point compared to what Saban did. There's less emphasis on the Red Ranger, but there were hits such as RPM's overall cast, not to mention Dylan, Sky, and SPD. With the Red Ranger, the Blue Ranger wanted to become Red Ranger arc. Neo Saban attempted to resurrect the original Saban craze with Mighty Morphin-ish inspired characters. Samurai had characters with names similar to the original Power Rangers. They had a kid's tone to try to do like Save by the Bell skits with most of the story and stuff. Very important for Lionsgate because that's basically what they did, except they got rid of a lot of the stuff such as the lessons of the day, kid actors of the day, etc. Make it force to that even more by actually doing the high school setting again, much like Ninja Steel did. This was so it showed that Lionsgate was taking a big risk by doing something that Saban had already done, where the audience might not have been there for it because they were already been sick of Saban's failed attempts at doing the Mighty Morphin reboot-ish thing, except with a sequel instead of a reboot. And obviously Power Rangers 2017 did a lot better, and the fans were impressed. A history in film and how Power Rangers was made was interesting too. In the 2000s, X-Men and Blade were made for darker toned superhero films after Steel and Batman and Robin. 2005 introduced dark reboots such as with Batman Begins. 2007 had non-child oriented 80s 90s toy commercial origin franchises created into films such as with Transformers. 2008 had Iron Man created as a film, starting superhero universes and superhero cameos. Important to this movie as well. 2012, The Avengers was created for an ensemble superhero movie. Even with comics, there was effect on the Power Rangers film. The last 2 years with serious boom effort by the writing crew and such, with the Power Rangers mythos and details. The Marvel diversity movement, such as getting an even bronzier age since the X-Men, with X-Men Marvel superhero cast.